Hello, this is the Victorious Wool Podcast. I'm Victoria. I think this is episode 11. I hope you're doing well and you are making lots of things in quarantine, wherever you are. Today is April 27th. It's a Monday. And it's been about... We kind of officially went into quarantine that second week of March, like March 14th. March 14th. I think I wrote it down. And so it's been about this is starting the sixth week of quarantine. And I've made a lot of things. So the last episode 10, I talked about this sweater that was in pieces. I wasn't done knitting it yet. But besides this sweater, I've also knit a Felix cardigan, 2 hats, and I'm almost done with the shawl. So I thought today that instead of doing an episode with my mom, which was what I was thinking for this episode, I thought I would just try to barrel through all the projects I have finished and all the projects I have, because I don't have a super ton, but everything I've finished recently, my whips and the yarn I've gotten recently, is a pretty big chunk of information and things to look at. So maybe in episode 12, I'll get my mom back in here. But so catching up on my whips. This is Tensile by Emily Greene, and I will back up a little bit so you can see it. I'm also going to insert a little video of me outside. I was so excited to finish this sweater, specifically because this is the last really old whip that I had. I started this sweater in 2018 when it was released. It's a Brooklyn Tweed sweater, and it came out in the I think midsummer of 2018, and I loved it immediately, and bought the pattern, bought the yarn. Oh wait, it's a sweater knit flat. Totally different experience. I worked on it a little bit then. I picked it up, I think, last summer, 2019. So a year later, I went back to it, knit a few more inches, and then that was it, I think. Just two previous periods of time before I picked this up mid-March. So kind of as soon as quarantine started, I thought, well, might as well launch and do a really intense project, because I was working from home, and I had 2 days a week I was out of the house, and both of those days stopped. I was 100% at home, and I still am 100% at home. So I thought, well, might as well just, now that I went from having 5 days at home to having every day at home, I might as well work on something. It's going to take a long time, like a bigger project, and success, because I finished the front and the back panels in, like I said last time, in 6 days. Then I think I took like a week off because I was kind of not so enthused about the sleeves. One of the sleeves, then I finished. I started maybe 5 inches of it and kind of left it for a week, like I said. And then when I picked it back up, I finished it in 24 hours. And then I finished the other one the next day. So once I got back into it, that's usually the case with me. If I pick something back up after it's been a while, I will get excited again, and I'll launch into it and I'll do it. So then I started seaming. It took me about, 5 or 6 days to seam. I think I did one of the shoulders multiple times because I took a seaming class from Bluprint, which used to be Craftsy. It's a Craftsy class. And it was really great because it showed you how to do seams on the shoulder. It showed you how to do horizontal seams. A lot of really great tips. Totally how to put in set-in sleeves. These aren't set-in at all, but if you need to. So I highly recommend that. I didn't pay for the class because Bluprint was having all classes are free until it was, I think, April 16th, and that's, of course, passed. But next time I see Miss Sweater, I will probably buy it if it's not free at that time, because it's really worth it to see things. I need to visually see something up close to really understand. I don't know how I thought I was going to get away with seaming without looking at a video first. But a friend, the day before I started seaming, a friend suggested that class to me, and it was available, and so I watched it, and I was like, oh yes, this is exactly what I'm going to do. It shows you how to find the spots you put your darning needle into on either side of the thing. It sort of weaves it together, and mattress stitch is actually really fun. I did have a little bit of trouble, like I said, on the shoulders. When I put the sleeves on, it suggests you start here and then you go all the way. But every time I did, I kept not hitting the middle of the sleeve to the middle of the shoulder. And that was annoying. So I just started in the center, went down one side, came back and went down the other side. That's how I just figured, you know what? It's not worth me doing this over and over to try to get it to match up. So, because I would pin it flat, the whole sweater would be flat, and I'd pin with removable stitch markers, both edges of the sleeve cap into the shoulder section, and then they're equal, there's enough space, and I would go along, and one piece would be getting worked in at a faster rate than the other one, and I tried to compensate, and it just wouldn't work, and I kept trying to compensate because the video from Bluprint shows you how to compensate. It wasn't working. So after a couple tries, I just did it from the center, and it looks great. I mean, they look wonderful. So I'm really happy with that. Last time I talked about how there was so many things on the sweater that I didn't know what I was doing, and so many things I wasn't sure were going to work out. The angle, the front and the back panels were different in the shoulders. I didn't know how long the sleeves would be. I wanted to make long sleeves, obviously not 3/4, because I don't like 3/4 stuff. It's so interesting how everybody's really particular about how they like their sleeves. Some people really love 3/4 stuff. Anyway, everything worked out. I would say almost 100% everything except for the collar rolling, which I'll talk about in a second. Everything worked out. It fits me in the length really well. It feels like if it could be a little shorter in the front, but because my shoulders are broad and I tend to hunch, usually the back of my sweaters get pulled up. And sometimes the back of my sweaters are like pulled up so much they're kind of almost at my waist, which is pretty far up from where my back of my hip bones are. So the fact that it's actually long enough actually covers that part of my back is probably for the best, because it definitely feels more comfortable then. It would be if it was shorter. But it was, at first it was like, oh, it's too long. But it's actually not. When I did the shoulders and I put it on kind of like a tunic, and my arms are just coming out right out the side, it felt too long, but actually got shorter when it was seamed up into the sweater. So the sleeves are perfect. Which they also seemed really long because I made them like 22 inches, I think, from here to there, because I have really long arms and I was afraid to be short. Everything worked out. No worries. It's even kind of boring talking about it now because I'm so over it already. I think I finished this maybe even 3.5 weeks ago. It feels like a lot longer than it actually has been. It feels like we've been in quarantine for a lot longer than 6 weeks. Even though the days are going by really fast, those weeks are going by really slowly in retrospect. Like, okay, we've been in quarantine for 3 months. I would totally believe it if someone told me it's been 3 months. I'd be like, yeah, feels like it. But, so it's probably only been 3 weeks since I finished this. Yeah, probably that. If that, maybe even less. Anyway, the only thing was that in the pictures of the design, the collar lays perfectly like this, nicely like this. But this is a stockinette fabric, pretty much. It's purled on one side and on the other side, regardless of the lace. And I blocked it heavily. I soaked just the collar because I had already blocked the sweater before I seamed. So when I did the collar, I put the whole collar in a bowl and it sat in there for hours, so it was wet. And then I pinned it out with my, what are they called? They're like the little blocker. They're pins that are stuck in a piece of plastic. Sock blocker. It doesn't have to do with socks though. Anyway, it's like a 5-pin clamp thing, pin thing you stick. And so it sat out for many days. It took to dry, being double layered, knit in the round, double layered on itself on the mat. It took several days for it to dry and really spread it out. And yet still pulling and rolling it over and it having to stretch over this area just curled it right up. So I had the idea that I could tack little sewing stitches in a few places and that would keep it down. At first I wanted it to be like I want the turtleneck to cover the part of the neckline, and that just never, I think I either made my neckline too big, so it couldn't possibly have come over this far of an area while also kind of going up like this on my neck. That's probably what happened. So it was always, there's just no way it's not going to roll. I kind of suspect either they did a more accurate job when they did, whoever knit the sample, or they blocked it more intensely than I did, or it's bigger than my collar is, or they tacked it. Now, that's kind of what fashion photography does, is they kind of tuck clothing in and pin things and clamp models into clothing all the time. So I'm kind of thinking like maybe they just tacked it. But anyway, I tacked it, one in the center. I think the one in the center is probably the most obvious one. And then there's a couple here, and then there's 3 in the back. And the video that I will put in, or probably already put in, of me outside moving in the sweater, you will see the back curled. And I went outside. You see it's not doing it now, because I put 1 little stitch in the back and 2 on the side, and I needed to put a couple in between the side and the back. And I think it looks pretty good. It looks way better than I thought it would. I have been avoiding, I literally did this right before recording. Went outside, did a little video, came in. Because I've been afraid. It's not something I normally do. I was worried it would not allow the collar to stretch over my head, which is totally not the case. You can't even feel the stitches are there. And I just did 3 whip stitches in each spot. And if they come out later, that's totally fine. If I just wanted them to be able that I could take them out if I wanted to. And I used black thread. Totally not visible. I think it looks great. So anyway, I'm happy 100% with this sweater. And I feel like I want to see more things together. I think a worsted weight or an Aran weight pullover would be great, just to get more practice without having to take the risk of something this complicated. I think because it's so boxy. I mean, this is a 50-inch, I think, 48 to 50 inches circumference here, and I have like a 33 bust circumference. So there's a lot of inches. It's like, well, the pattern suggested you have 16 to 19 inches. I think I have more than that. But it's so big that, as long as it fits in the shoulders, which it does, then really any potential fit issues with seaming kind of were avoided, because it doesn't have to be so exact. If I was to make a fitted sweater, I think the problems I had or the things I winged might have become more of an issue. But anyway, so mischief managed for the Tensile sweater. The next thing I did was I made a little palette cleanser, and I made the Ghost Hat by Andrea Mowry. This is her brioche and mosaic kind of color fading hat. My colors don't fade so much. I kind of do a little bit. I used a kit from 6 and 7th Fiber, which I'd never used their yarn before. I wish I could remember what the base was called. This is some sort of fingering weight, not super rusting fingering weight. It's lovely. I would love to use this yarn again, but what I ended up doing is most of the purple, because I didn't love the green color as much, so I just did the the mini skein of purple with the white. So yeah, looks good. It's been on Instagram. It has a little bit of a poof up here. I kind of like hats that I can pull down when it's cold, and then I can also kind of wear perched. Kind of like a guy, a little bit. So yeah, I like it. When it's super cold and the wind's blowing, it's cold right here. Like, it's not like a super, at least the way that it's modeled in the patterns photographs, it's not a super cold kind of hat. I made this one, I think, in 4 days. I had never done mosaic knitting before. Super easy. You just have to pay attention to how many knits and how many slips, and you're good. So yeah, the yarn was really great. And it looks good. I blocked it on a balloon to stretch it out because it was a little small feeling, I think, when I put it on. It was a little bit too much. Sucked. If hats tend to just like pull, they just accentuate the narrowness of my face. Some people have lovely round faces, and they can wear big sunglasses, and they can wear any kind of hat, and they just look adorable. And I have such a narrow head that I need lots of like horizontal. I'm always like, I want earrings that go this way. I want my hair to kind of go a little bit out and not just straight back. And I want the same thing with hats. They need to have a little bit of poof. So I don't look like a cancer patient, I guess, or just really narrow. Yeah. After that, after the Ghost Ranch, I made Felix? It says Felix on the list. It just seems like I knit this a really long time ago. But I guess the next thing I finished was just the other day, on Sunday. I made another Felix cardigan. I haven't tried it on yet. I literally unpinned it from the blocking mats today. So I guess maybe I'll wear it on the next podcast. It's got the eyelets on the raglan and on the back too. This is Lettlopi. This yarn blocks out so nice. I had very lumpy, very loose stitches, and it's smoothed out beautifully. I have not obviously put the buttons on yet because I needed it to dry, but I've marked where the buttonholes are and where I want the buttons to be. I knit this. This was not a super old whip. I started this one, I think, in November. I had about maybe an inch or two of the yoke raglan started, and but besides that, I started on a Sunday morning and finished on a Saturday morning. So I literally did it in 7 days, a week. It was so quick and lovely. Since I did it before, I was confident in the pattern. I knew it was going to happen, and I was confident in the yarn. Somebody asked me on Instagram when I posted it in pieces, or when I posted it almost done. Someone asked me whether they were going to make it and there were any tips I could offer, and I said, go up a size or two. Oh, I think I just went up one size. Go up a size when you knit the sleeves, because the body's knit in the round, the body's knit flat, and the sleeves are knit in the round. And when I made my gray one, which I also have here, and in fact, let me button it really quickly so you can get the whole cardigan effect. It's much cuter with buttons. This is a much, you probably can't tell on the film at all, but it's a much hairier Lettlopi. I think this is probably an undyed one, because there's lots of little bits of black and white, and there's really long white hairs that this rusty color did not have. They both blocked beautifully and filled out. the stitches when I knit this, at least at the gauge I knit it at, which hopefully was the pattern gauge, but I don't remember. Maybe it's different. I can't be sure anymore. It has the stitches have quite a lot of space around them, but when you block the sweater, you wash it and block it, it blooms beautifully and it gets softer. Now, it's still not something I'd wear. Still not something I'd knit a shawl out of, probably. Or wear, like, I probably maybe wouldn't knit a turtleneck in it. Maybe I would, it depends. But it's just woollier. It's not itchy, although I have had experiences of putting it on and felt itchy. I think it more has to do with the temperature in the room. If it's really, really cold or I'm outside, the itch factor disappears because there are other sensations that my body is focused on. If I'm really warm and I'm wearing one of these, yeah, I'm going to feel hot and like uncomfortable because I'm going to start sweating. So when I was telling my mom she should make one of these because they're just so easy and fun to make. The pattern is lovely. They're super fast. I mean, I think I knit this gray one probably 2-3 weeks, maybe. I was probably knitting other things and also working. But my mom said, well, it's kind of crunchy. And I said, it's not against your skin kind of wool. It's really, really warm. And it softens up. So I'm really super into Lopi. I have a bunch of it. When I think it's Iztex. It's either the website or the brand that makes Lettlopi. I think Iztex is the company that makes Lettlopi. And also Lopi and Poodlelopi. Alafas, and I'm probably not saying any of those words correctly, Icelandic words. But alafas.is, I think, is the website that I often go to if I'm going to buy a sweater quantity or multiple sweater quantities, then I will buy it from them. And they have sales. I get their newsletter. They give me sales. I've gotten balls of Lopi for $2 before, $2 US, and that's when I literally bought a bundle. It was the biggest amount of wool that's ever come in. It was literally a ball that came from DSL and a big yellow plastic ball that had, I think, probably 48 balls in it, because I got multiple colors of Lettlopi, one of which was this color. So you can get it for $2 to $3 a ball if you buy directly from Iceland, and the shipping costs, at least during normal business time, I don't know how things are right now. Normal business times, I paid, I think, $15 for shipping, but that was still actually cheaper than my local, than Tolt Yarn and Wool, my local LYS. They sell it for $5. And I will buy, of course, from Tolt. I have all the rust color I got from Tolt. And it's $5 a ball. So it's still a really great, affordable yarn. If at $5 or at $2 a ball. So I used 6 balls for both sweaters. I have enough yarn to make a red Felix pullover, which I think I'll probably make maybe in the fall. For Christmas or something. And I also have a dark blue sweaters quantity, maybe even 2 sweater. I think I might have 12 balls of this like dark sort of navy blue with red flecks in it. And then I also have a bright blue. So I'm kind of really into Lopi sweaters just from the fact the yarn is so beautiful. They're very warm, they're very affordable, and they're super fast. So I'm really, I can't be more excited about it. I know spring is coming, summer is coming, and it's not probably the time, but I was very much looking forward to finishing this for the fall. And I probably will wear it in spring. It's been oscillating between 50 and 70 degrees, and if it's raining and stuff. I did also, I have no heat going on in my studio space anymore because I don't really need it, so I can now really still wear the sweaters because I've turned the heat off. The heat's been off actually for a couple months, so I've been enjoying wearing sweaters every day. I got these buttons for the sweater. You could also use the brown side. But I have I've got a package of 50 of these for like $10. It's much easier to buy bulk buttons, or much cheaper to buy bulk buttons than it is to buy them individually at a fancy yarn store. Not fancy, regular local yarn store, where they can be like $1.75 each. But I have a whole bag of these, and they will do just fine, I think. I thought it would be really cool to get like navy blue buttons or turquoise buttons to go with these, and I did look some stuff up online, and they're not even that expensive to get. I only need 6 to get buttons of different colors. I could just get multiple colors and just get them and see, but since I'm not working right now, it's nice not to need to spend money on something I don't really need, since I have buttons already. I also do have a plastic box that I got from someone else that was an old collection of buttons. I could do the brown one. I could also look through this old box of buttons and see if there's anything else in there that's better than these little guys, but I think these are fine. Yeah, I think they're pretty. I think they're made out of, I think they're plastic. Maybe they were meant to look like wood. Anyway, the buttons on my gray one are adorable. I have more of these. I got a whole bag of these watch buttons, I think from Amazon. They're different clocks with vintagey clock buttons that I love, but I thought maybe I don't necessarily want to do the exact same thing on this other cardigan. I don't know. I'm excited to try this on. Probably when I'm done recording this episode, I will try the sweater on and sew the buttons on, since I have not done that yet. Yeah, it's so beautiful. I really love it. And I'm excited to have a sweater this color. I think my Woolen Honey is similar to this, but it's red, more on the red side. It's more rusty color. This is really like, just like a rusty brown with black in it. Anyway, it's a very, very fall color, and I'm happy to have this. This is I think the colorway. They're numbered. They're not necessarily, well, they are given names on some websites, but I don't remember what this one was. I will find it and put it in the show notes. Actually, it's called Rust Heather. At least it was when I got it from Tolt, because I guess these skeins came from Tolt. 9427 is the color number. Yeah. 9427. So, very, very happy with that. And the last finished object I have is I made another Yukon hat. I just finished it yesterday afternoon. Started it Saturday morning. No, started it Saturday afternoon and finished it Sunday afternoon. So, it took me a day, which I totally knew it would. And it's my favorite hat ever. I have a red one, knit in, alright, let me redo my hair here. The red one was in Harrisville's Highland worsted. I'll show it to you. This hat, which I have worn lots and lots of times on Instagram, doesn't look very impressive, but it looks really adorable on me. It makes my cheeks look nice and red, and I love it. It's, of course, stretched out a little bit, so it's even more horizontal poof than this one. And then it just sort of just got this little gentle little boop. So I've always wanted to make another one. I made this one in 2018. It's the Knitty Pine is the designer name. It's Kylie is how you pronounce her name. She lives, I believe, in Alberta, Canada. And she's designed a lot of really lovely hats. And this one is my absolute favorite hat. I wear this. This is the go-to. And so the reason I decided to make a blue one, I made a green one for my mom. Sorry, I wanted to say that. I made a green one for my mom. She really likes it too. It looks really good on her. It's sort of like a foresty green. I think it was a 100% alpaca yarn from Blue Sky that was bulky because Kylie has both a bulky and a worsted weight version of this hat. Anyway, knit the green and look really good on my mom too. So for 2, I thought I should knit another one in a different color. And I was trying to go for a walk and I wanted to wear a hat because my hair was looking kind of bad. And I wanted to wear a hat that would go with the sweater I was wearing. And I knew the red one wouldn't. I was like, no, I don't want to wear. So I was like, why don't I just knit another one? I did go on the walk, and when I came back, I started this one. This is Farmer's Daughter Fibers in Pishkun in York, which is her teal, wonderful tealy green. And I don't have a hat this color. I do have quite a couple of dark green hats, and I really like it. It's done fisherman rib. You do fisherman's rib, and then you do the body of the hat, and then you decrease really quickly. So it has this nice poof. And I haven't blocked it yet. I think it looks fine the way it is. I know the stitches would probably be more even if I blocked it. I like the tightness right now, and so I don't want to give the yarn any reason to expand at all. So yeah, I'm going to wear it the rest of the day now because my hair, I need to cut my bangs. Hopefully next time I record, my bangs will be cut. That's it for the whips. Just the 4, 2 sweaters and 2 hats, in a month. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm almost done with all the whips from last year. So the Tensile was my oldest whip from 2018. And then I had the Felix and then this shawl as the only 2 whips that were from 2019. So once I finish the shawl, it will be all whips from 2020, which I have to say is super exciting because I have totally done a 180 on the kind of whip collector I am, the kind of knitter I am, from having an untold number of projects. And then in 2018, I went through my stash and unraveled things and threw stuff away and gave away yarn and pared it down to 8 to 13. And some of those 13 never made it. They got pulled. I decided not to make them later on. And I, of course, added lots of whips in 2018 and 2019. But now it's down to this guy. This is Hollows by B. Mandarins, Melody Hoffmann. And it's a shawl that has short rows sections. So you'll see those 2 eyelet lines come together. You do a short row section on one side, the other side, and then in the middle. And it's a top-down crescent shape. I believe this, I've done this a couple times with B. Mandarins patterns, and I don't understand why I keep doing it. I'm not sure I've made this mistake. I don't actually care. I'm just going to keep going. But I'm pretty sure it was written for DK weight, and that's not what I used. So this is a fingering weight yarn from a Homespun House. You guys know how much I love Molly. This is her Cashmerino fingering in the color Lincoln. And I'm using a size US 4. In the pattern, I believe it calls for a US 6. And so that's why I started thinking, was this written for DK? And I'm not so sure how long it is. I know that I'm going to take this garter stitch and I'm going to stretch and make it as big as possible so that it's a bigger shawl. But I'm not so sure that I read that right and I got the right yarn and I used the right needles. I have no idea. The yarn and needle combination, fingering weight on a size 4 with garter, looks great. I think it's beautiful. I was going to frog this. I think because I didn't enjoy the first section. There's a lot of just knitting, and then an occasional purl row, and an occasional eyelet row. And then the short rows are pretty fun. So there's not a lot of going on, which I think most knitters would love. But I think coming off of doing this was so complicated, all over lace. There was a lot of stuff to consider. I'm pretty sure, yeah, that I really enjoyed that stimulation. And this has just been essentially very boring. Even though beautiful yarn, it looks great. It was a little on the boring side. I just think because of what I was coming off of working on. So I have about 28 rows left, and I'm of course in the longest part where it takes at least 10 minutes to get across. But my goal is to finish by the end of April, so I have a few more days. I'm going to try to knit 3 hours on it every day. That's kind of what I do when I want to get something done. I break the goals down into smaller digestible sections, and then I can do it. I may or may not cast on a design in the next few days. Depends on how this goes. I'll talk about that more in a second. That's my number one whip. The other thing I have that I worked on a little, not I'm working on last week, 2 weeks ago. So all I did last week was Felix, which is my Zweig. This is a Caitlin Hunter sweater, Boylan Knitworks, and when I picked it up 2 weeks ago, I was maybe a quarter through the lace, so I finished the lace, finished the color work, split for the sleeves. I'm knitting, I think, size large because I really actually want it to be a sweatshirt. One of the great things about Ravelry and Instagram, following hashtags, is that you can go search and look at what other people have done. And hundreds of people have made this. There are hundreds of Zweigs out there. And so I was looking at how it fit different kinds of bodies. And did I like it when it was boxier? Did I like it when it was narrower? I think a lot of people made it very fitted. And maybe it's kind of written to be fitted. It's like 2 to 4 inches of positive ease, which isn't fitted, but it's not oversized really either. That's kind of like a good amount of like regular room wear. Like this is like, 15, anywhere from like 9 to 12 inches of positive ease on either side. This is oversized. So I wanted this to be more of a sweatshirt. Like I wanted it to be sort of more poncho-y, kind of just really trying to hit the fit that Caitlin Hunter herself got, because that's my favorite out of all the pictures that I saw. So tried it on, and I made the sections that I made a little longer were before I started the color work. I made this section longer, and I made the white and the color work here. I made this longer by like 4 rows, I think, because my gauge is not Caitlin's gauge. I'm going gauge rogue again, like I did with Tensile. My rows I have fewer rows over 4 inches. I know it's a really weird thing to conceptualize and say it out loud. My rows are shorter. So I have to knit like something like over 4 inches, I think. I need to knit 8 more rows to be equivalent to what her row measurement was. So that's not a problem when you're doing a top-down raglan, because you can just find spots to add extra rows and try it on as you go, which is why I added length in the spots that I did. So I think I made the yoke 1 inch. It says, knit until the yoke measures, I think, 10 inches in the size large. And so I made it like 1 inch longer than that. But it fits great. Yeah. Because, even if you want an oversized sweater, I still want it to fit in the shoulders, which it will. So anyway, I probably won't work on that very much. It's now into the body, just very, very slow on a fingering weight sweater. So my next project, I'm going to try to incorporate this other way of knitting, which I don't normally do, which is to make myself knit on a project for a half hour at a time. So that's probably what I'll do with Zweig. Once I get this done, I will probably move on and do a half hour of Zweig every day, so that if I make progress, at least I'm making some, if not very much. Usually what happens though when I sit down to work on something, I'm only going to work on this for 30 minutes, as I usually work on it for longer. So it's just a nice way to sort of manipulate myself into working on something regularly. This is Marley by Andrea Mowry. It's a top-down, this is the top-down triangle shawl, all in brioche. And I'm thinking I'm about maybe halfway, maybe a third of the way done. It's kind of warped by the needles, but so the central spine there will be actually straight. I don't know if it will stay that way right now. It's very squishy. It's kind of getting blown out by the, there we go, by the light from the window. So I have this white yarn is a single from Madtosh. I think it's probably a Madtosh or Madtosh Mo Light or something from a really long time ago. I bought like 6 skeins of it, which means I had something crazy like 2,400 yards. I don't know why I got so much. And this side, here we go. That's a better accurate representation. This is a club colorway from Hedgehog Fibers that I got, I think back in 2007 maybe? Maybe called Unicorn Dust. I don't think you can get it anymore. It's very much a Lisa Frank colorway, mostly pink with bright blue, neon blues, and purple, and here we go. Yeah, it's very rainbowy though. I mean, obviously it's not a rainbow, but it just, the way the colors change is very quick. I thought I was gonna need, I don't think this shawl, I'm certainly not knitting it at gauge. It's a shawl, I didn't swatch. When I pulled the yarn out to pick colors, I think there was an assumption that I would need 2 skeins of each, the white and the contrasting color. So when I said I'm either halfway done or a third done, I'm not sure because I still have quite a lot of this yarn left. The other skein I pulled out to use when this one runs out, because obviously I have lots of white, but I only have one of this, is this Woolen Boon sock yarn. There we go. Over here, this is a better light on this side. Which is sort of rainbowy. It's a different tone. It has a darkerness to it, but it also has, you know, reds and blues and golds and blacks, and I thought it would be not exactly the same, but close enough. Maybe it won't be. Maybe I won't even need to use it, but I kind of wanted to switch colors. I just thought that would be really fun. Anyway, this is a project that I now have memorized. I talked about last time about having learning disability. Something that I know works better for me is if I have a pattern memorized. One way of memorizing a pattern is to rewrite the rows, which is what I did for Tensile. I know I talked about that last time. So I also rewrote the rows for Andrea Mowry's pattern. Just in that I wanted to make certain things jump out at me so that when I looked at it, I wouldn't have to read word for word. I could just look at row 1A and I have the words white in bold, all caps, so that I can look, oh, what color? Oh, I should be using white really quick. And then in brioche, you take your, for those who've done it, your contrasting color is either dropped to the front or to the back of the work when you're knitting flat, so that that yarn is in the right place the next time you need it. And so I bolded the words back and front on the rows. And then in typing this out into on my computer, you know, I found that row 1 and row 3 are exactly the same. There's a lot of words there, so it can kind of seem like they're not the same, but they are actually identical. So I wrote that down. I also know when I'm on the pink side, I'm on an odd number. When I'm on the white side, I'm on an even number. And only on row 4A and 4B am I doing, 4A only, am I doing any increasing. So that only happens on row 4A. And so now, having typed this in, I don't actually need it anymore. I have it with me in case a certain amount of time has gone by and I haven't worked on it and I kind of forgot, need a refresher. But when I wrote that out, I had it. And so this project went from being sort of annoying to having to pay attention a lot to being something that I could literally look at the knitting and go, oh, I'm on this row. And that makes a project like this so much better. So I always highly encourage people to adapt the format of their pattern to what works really well for them, so that you can really enjoy something rather than struggling and having to read the words and look at that, like tracking back and forth. When people tell me, oh, I wrote out this chart for your pattern and I did all this stuff, I'm always happy that people do that. Please take the information I have provided you and make it work in a way that is as easy as possible, because this kind of project, which is very repetitive, it's over and over, you're doing the same 4 rows, if even that, because row 1A and 3A are the same. Anyway, besides that, you're pretty much doing the same thing over and over for a really long time, for like hours and hours and hours. And you're making it longer and longer as you go. So having to look, it's like, how does anybody get this project done? If you were to have to look all the time at the pattern, I just can't imagine. I can't imagine wanting to do that. Yeah. So anyway, that's Marley. I'm going to try to work on a half hour every day until it's done. And then I'll move and do a half hour on Zweig until that's done. The last whip I haven't done very much on, and I just want to mention it because I'm sure I'll be talking about it again on a future podcast. And I did swatch twice for it, so I did do some work. I am making Pink Velvet, also by Andrea Mowry. It's a sweater that came out, I think, in January. Her version was pink main color with a lighter pink yoke, and the yoke is really beautiful and sort of fuzzy yarn. I think she used some yak in there, maybe some Surrey alpaca. My version is based on a tester of hers, I think. I believe her username is the Puny Pearl. I don't remember her first name, her real name. But she had a Pink Velvet in this color with white. So yes, I am knitting a Zweig in a dark green and a white yoke. And I'm also knitting a dark Pink Velvet with a white yoke. So I am doing a little bit of the same thing to myself, both fingering weight sweaters. But I wanted to knit both of them, and those are the yarns I liked, so I just sort of had to go with it. The yarn is from Lambstrings Yarn, who does lots of really, really lovely dark saturated. I think she has at what's called a Gothic Yarn Club. They are really intense. And this one's called the Black Shuck, SHUCK, the Black Shuck. And this is her 1-ply high twist, 100% merino. I'm excited to knit a sweater in a single. Maybe I've never done that, actually. This yarn, it's a like tiny bit crunchy because it's so saturated with dye. It smells good. Something about at least this skein that I started using is the dye comes off on my hand, like where the yarn comes across my finger will turn black. That, of course, comes out immediately with washing my hands. And the swatch that I did, there was no dye in the water. So the dye will come off with friction. It will not come off with water. I just assume that's how it is probably with all her yarn, because it's so dark. You have to put so much yarn, so much dye in, but there was no bleeding. So I'm not worried about the color of this color bleeding onto the white yarn. but I will watch it. I won't leave it in the bath for very long, maybe at most an hour, and I'll probably be in the kitchen the whole time checking to see that that's happened, because that's happened to me only once when I knit my Tecumseh by Caitlin Hunter, and I used Madtosh and their yarn. The dark gray I used bled. No, that's not true. The red color I used bled onto the gray of the rest of the body. And so I let that sit in there for over 24 hours because I just didn't think about it. And I had never had that happen to me before. And I hadn't wanted to block the sweater right away, so I just left it in there, and that was a mistake. And you can't really see it in any of the photographs I put up. And it doesn't even bother me anymore, but it was a little bit like, oh, huh, okay. That's I'll keep an eye on that from now on. So I will check, but I'm pretty confident because that's watched. The water was so clear you could have drank it. It's crazy. So anyway, I've just done the ribbing on the neckline, and I've done nothing else. The next thing to do is to do the short rows at the back of the neck. But because I'm also working on Zweig, and I had some other things going on, I just wanted to get this started. It takes me quite a bit of time to swatch and block and count and measure, and I really wanted to follow. I feel like the last few sweaters I've done, I haven't followed gauge. I haven't gotten the patterns gauge, so I haven't been able to entirely follow the pattern. I've had to make a lot of stuff up. This one, and obviously the Zweig a little bit, although I am following it just a bigger size. So I wanted to make sure that I got gauge so that I could just knit a pattern and not have to do so much thinking, because I do get tired of having to make those decisions and the pressure of what if I do something wrong, like what about that, So I took some time, I got gauge, and picked a size, and that all just takes, just like it's a whole other task in my mind apart from casting on. So I got through that and I cast on. And those are all my WIPs. I have that shawl, I have Zweig, I have the Marley shawl, and I have the pink velvet. So 2 shawls and 2 fingering weight sweaters, and that's all I have. And that's probably the fewest WIPs I've ever had, ever. So I'm really, really happy about that. I can't state enough about how happy I am to feel as open with my time as I am, and I have a plan for slowly chiseling away at these bigger projects that I have, and I keep thinking about casting on another sweater, but the main thing that I wanted to do was finish enough WIPs so that I was not allowing my creative energy to get sucked up on this next, whatever the next thing that I impulsively chose. I wanted to really curate what I was working on so that my creative energy could go in a particular direction, which is, of course, knit design. I want to be faster and more courageous in my knit design, and I just am not. So I have not been, and I would like to be. So one of the steps was to not be so distracted by other projects. So that kind of leads me into the yarns that I have. I have not purchased much yarn in the last 2 months. Just actually 2 skeins have I actually purchased. I'll just quickly talk about this yarn that I got from Red Sock Blue Sock, which was made in Canada. This is called Rain Cloud. This is a 100% merino sport weight superwash. I got 3 skeins. This was part of something, I don't even know how I saw this, but someone was advertising that you could buy a sweater with this quantity of yarn. If you just bought ahead, you could get a less expensive price per skein. And I knew I remember kind of at the time thinking, well, I don't need to buy 5 skeins. So you could either buy 3 or you could buy 5. And this isn't enough yarn to get a sweater. But anyway, to make a sweater, I picked this so that I could do something, maybe a shawl at some point. It's almost 800 yards of something, so a small shawlette or something like that. Anyway, that came this last week. I got a notification that it shipped, and I had totally forgotten about it. And I thought I was done getting yarn orders, no more clubs, everything. I've literally not bought yarn because I was trying to just stop for a while. And because we're in lockdown and not working as much, it was just a really good time to like be really strong and not buy anything. So this was like, oh, I guess I had another order that I've totally forgotten. That's how much yarn I was buying that I could order something months ahead of time and totally forget about it. It's crazy to me. So anyway, I don't know when that will come back out, but it's nice, soft. The only yarn I have purchased, I bought 2 skeins of Farmer's Daughter Fibers Craggy Tweed in New York, same colorway as my hat. And Dumpling, which is a peachy pink. I wanted these 2 together because they're amazing. So I was watching a show. I was watching Discovery of Witches, which came out, that first season came out last year. I've read the books. There's a scene in that first season where they're in a tea room in Oxford, and the wallpaper is like tealy, bright blue. It might not even be teal. It's like a bright blue with a pink. And the chairs in the room are blue. And it's all matchy. And there's these beautiful floral patterns in there. And I've seen the show before, but I just never had really paid attention to those 2 colors before. And so that's where this came from, is I want to design something with these 2 colors. I also already had Elk Antler, which is this sort of like oatmeal-y gray. It's for a long time was my very, very favorite Farmer's Daughter colorway. And I have literally 8 skeins of this. And I'm going to sacrifice one and put them together. So this is what I'm going to do. These 3 together. 2 lighter colors to contrast with New York. So I'm not going to tell you what it is until I'm a little bit closer. I haven't cast it on, obviously, so I have to keep things under wrapped. But I just wanted to share because the colors are really nice together, especially these 2. And because it's the only yarn I've purchased in a long time. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that my Aya shawl, which is a fingering weight lacy, asymmetrical, side-to-side shawl, that is the bottom, is almost done testing. It's this beautiful light rosy pink. It's called Rose Gold. It's from Homespun House in her non-superwash fingering weight, which is called Dale. She is moving to Germany, so her shop is closed. But she will be back in the fall. And I think I'm going to release it anyway without her shop being open because it's a really great shawl for spring and for summer. There's 2 sizes. There's a size that just goes to, I think it stops here. So it would be to like there, to where this garter ridge is. And then if you want to make the large size, then there's this last big lace section. Now it's hard to tell that. But, and it looks almost more like a skin color here than a pink. But I wanted something that had really long tails so that, now it looks like it's winter, so that you could actually have it stay front or bundle yourself up if it's actually cold. So I was trying to make a garment that didn't have so much depth. I really like shawls with a lot of wingspan. I probably said this last time I talked about it. Long wingspan so that you can actually wrap it around yourself. I think it also is the fact that I'm on the taller side, so my torso is a little longer. So if something's shorter in wingspan, then they kind of rest here and they sort of fall off my shoulders. So that's why there's 2 sizes. If you don't have as long of a torso as me and you don't want that extra wingspan, you can do the 6-foot version and not the 8-foot version. So it has little garter interruptions where there's just garter stitch for a while. I love this lace pattern. I think the testers have been having a really good time with it. Almost everybody's done. There's not a distinct published date because I wanted to give everybody extra time to knit their test. With the quarantine, lockdown, everybody's schedules are all different. People have their kids at home all the time. They're not able to knit as much, so I wanted to give them time to get through it. So, and being in no rush to publish because not as many people have money, so they're probably not, and it just might be me, but people are not buying as many patterns as they were before. But hopefully people will love this one. And they can get a yarn that is as lovely as this fingering weight is. It was really lovely to knit with. I would highly recommend, if you're looking for yarn or interested in knitting it from your stash, I would look for more of a solid yarn. The speckles are great, but they don't allow the stitch definition for the pattern to come through. One of my testers knit a contrasting color in her garter, which looked really cool. You could do that. You could do different lace sections, different colors if you wanted. There's, of course, infinite variability in all patterns. But I think it looks really, really nice in a solid. You can do whatever you want. Some of the things that I want to have in my wardrobe are like these pieces that take a lot of time. This one's not too bad. This one took me 3 weeks, and I was really pushing it. So I think probably average time for a knitter would be anywhere from a month to 6 weeks to finish something like this. But a lot of the pieces that I want in my wardrobe as staples, something that I'd wear over and over, are solids, are more on the simple side. And even though there's lace, it's a relatively simple pattern. Every lace section is exactly the same size. You do the same number of rows. You do the same number of repeats. All the directions, row directions are the same. So it doesn't have like a varying direction to keep you interested, I guess. But the fact that it is so clean looking is really what I wanted. So I hope that people like it and that I get to publish it soon. Okay, that's a lot of stuff. Hopefully my mom and I will record next week. We can talk about what she's been working on. She did a top-down crescent-shaped shawl like my Cumulus Skies. She just did it all garter stitch instead of doing some of the stripes with a pattern. We just took that out for her, and she just did garter, and it's really beautiful. I don't think she's blocked it yet, so she can talk about that. And she's also started a really great Linus shawl from all of her Homespun House Patreon minis. If you become a Patreon member for a Homespun House, you get 3 minis every month, and so she had like I think 12 minis, and so she's making this really cool shawl with that. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching what I've been working on, and I hope you've been able to knit lots and make lots, because if anything, we can definitely make our days satisfactory and enjoyable by making stuff every day and keeping the projects going. And that's what I'll be doing later today. Bye!